Okay, so let's uh, cover how to create custom functions in Google Sheets in this video. So what we're trying to accomplish here, so if you're using some functions in Google Sheets, you're probably doing like equals, and then you type the function name, and then you use parentheses and maybe provide some arguments, and then your function returns something, right? So there are some built-in functions that are available in Google Sheets, but you can also create your own functions using app scripts. So I'm gonna go to my scripts. The first thing I want to do, I'm gonna create a function. The name of the function is gonna be the function that we're going to use in our sheets. So I'm gonna create a meaningless function just for illustration of this video, just so we can see how it actually works. So let's call this multiply by 5, right? That's what I'm gonna call this function. So there it is, multiply, hopefully I spelled it right, by 5. So that's what my function name is going to be. So I did it all caps just to follow the regular syntax in Google Sheets or Excel functions, all caps type of thing. But it doesn't have to be in all caps, right? So anyways, so if our function is going to accept some arguments, like for example, if we're using like a sum function, we provide some arguments, see like the value 1 is an argument, then value 2 is an argument. If we want to provide some arguments, those arguments will have to pass through our parentheses here. So I'm going to call this argument just arg. So this could be really anything, so I can go call it x, and then I'll be able to use it later on. So let's call it x for simplicity. So that's going to be my argument that I'm passing. So I'm going to allow the user to pass an argument to the function. And what I want the function to do, I want to simply multiply whatever number that person uses by 5, because we're creating this meaningless function, as I said, that's going to multiply by 5, right? So in your function, you're going to have your function logic that's going to happen line by line over here. So technically this could be a one-liner function, but I can illustrate that you can have some logic here. I'm gonna go and let's say I'm gonna create a variable, and I'm gonna call it variable the result equals, right? So my result is gonna be equal to whatever that x is that the user is gonna pass, x. I'm gonna multiply that by 5. Let's make it clean, and semicolon, so that's the variable. And what we're going to do, so if you're going to make a function that the user is going to use, you want to make sure that your function in the end returns a value. So in this case, it's going to return this result, whatever that is, and semicolon to end that. So if I save this, so initially the user is going to pass the x value. The x value is going to be multiplied by 5. We're going to get the result, and we're going to return it back from the function. So now at this point, if I go and use this function, so I'm going to go ahead and save this, go back to my sheets, let's put a number here, and I'm going to say right next to it equals multiply by 5, going to open parentheses, and I'm going to use that number and close my parentheses, hit enter, and there it is, 30. So we took that 6, multiplied by 5, and we return it, so it's 30. So if we go back and modify this 6 to 8, now we're going to have 8 multiplied by 5. We're going to get 40. Well, you get the idea. So that's that. So one thing that you're going to notice when you go back here and you start typing multiply by, see, the function doesn't show up in a functions list as a default. So you can still use it as I did, but it doesn't show up as the user types the function. So you can actually use some special comment syntax on top of your function to make autocomplete work. and that works with this I don't know, whatever they call it, JDoc or whatever syntax it is, but basically it's like you start with this line of comment over here, so you have to start the first one with this double stars and end with a star. So this is like the regular JavaScript comment. This is like the multi-line JavaScript comments look like this, right? Now what we do, we add another star, and that's kind of like our documentation, I guess, function, what we're gonna do. And what we have to do, we'll have to use this stars on each line, and on one of the lines I have to define that this is going to be a custom function, and this is kind of like a documentation or autocomplete for that custom function. So I'm going to do this @ custom function, that's that, and here on top of that I want to actually just explain what this function is going to do. I'm going to say multiplies the given number by 5, right? Something like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this. Now let's go back to our spreadsheet and start typing multiply. See, and now multiply by 5 function starts showing up in my results after using the special comments. And you can see as I'm rolling over that, it explains what the function is going to do. It says, for example, these are built-in functions on top. It says product of 2 numbers, right? If we keep going down, it says multiply the given number by 5, which is what my autocomplete syntax was. So multiply by 5, and then it says object. So there are ways to actually improve this. Okay, so it would be nice for us to explain what this x parameter is that the user is going to pass. So I'm going to add another line here. I'm going to do @param, oh, no space here, and since this is x, I'm trying to explain what that is, so I'm going to say param x. Basically after this, that's the explanation, and I'm going to say it's a number that will be multiplied. I guess that's as good as any. So now at this point, if we go back and equals multiply, whoop, there it is, multiply by 5. So you can see that here we have this suggestion that that x that we require in this function, that's a number that will be multiplied. So again, if you want to kind of explain what that parameter is for, that's what it's here for. So you do this, the parameter. So that's that. Escape out of this. Now I'm gonna go back. Okay, so let's use another example. Let's say we have, let's leave this function alone, and I'm just gonna copy and paste it to make it easy. Multiply 2 numbers, right? So in this case, let's say we have 2 arguments. So, and again, instead of calling them x and y, I'm gonna call them arg1 and arg2 in this case. So I'll go ahead and type arg1 multiplied by arg2. So this function is going to be like the regular function, multiply function, I guess, that multiplies 2 numbers, but we're going to make our own version of it. So there it is. So multiply 2 numbers, arg1 and arg2. We're going to take those 2 numbers that the user is going to pass. So this will be a function that will have 2 arguments, and then we will get the result and return it back. And finally, let's make some documentation for this function. So I'm gonna go back here, paste this on top, and again, pay attention, I'm pasting this above the function declaration. So multiplies 2 numbers, and then the param, the first one is arg1, so param x one of the numbers for multiplication. And we also have the second argument, and we want to describe what that's for. So I'm gonna say param arg2 second number for multiplication. It's as good as any, I guess. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this, go back to my sheets, 8 and 6. So I'm gonna go equals multiply two numbers. That's our new function. See the argument one of the numbers for multiplication, argument 2, second number for multiplication. So we're gonna take this, oops, it shouldn't have gone there. So click here, click on this one, comma, click on the second one. So we are passing two arguments and hit equals 48. Now if we take 3 and 2, that should be 6. So there you go. That's how you actually create your own functions. Obviously your functions can be much more complex, and as we go forward we'll create more complex functions, but this would be a basic understanding how you create a function and how you actually create some syntax that your function has autocomplete functionality to it, and some explanation what your parameters are. Alright, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Subscribe for our future AppScripts videos, and I'll see you next time.